Join us as we explore the UNESCO World Heritage site of Georgetown, including the various historical sites and street foods in Penang. Hi everyone, and welcome to Dan's Destinations. Following on from my trip to Cameron Highlands, I visited Penang. Penang, often called the Pearl of the Orient, sits on the northwest coast of peninsular Malaysia, about 400 kilometers from Kuala Lumpur. It is actually made up of two parts: Penang Island, where Georgetown is located, and 𝗧𝗢𝗡𝗞𝗦, the mainland half, connected by the iconic Penang Bridge. But let's be honest, the real action is on the island. Penang's story begins long before the formation of Malaysia. In 1786, British trader Captain Francis Light claimed Penang for the British East India Company as a trading port, a free port that attracted Chinese traders, Indian merchants, and Malay fishermen. In 2008, the city of Georgetown was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site, recognizing its unique architectural and cultural townscape without parallel anywhere in East or Southeast Asia. It means strolling through laneways lined with 19th century shophouses, sipping kopi peng in century-old kopitiam, and hearing 3 languages in one hawker center. There are multiple ways to travel to Penang from Kuala Lumpur, and I'll rank them in terms of ease. The easiest way to visit Penang is via airplane from Kuala Lumpur. Most people will be aware that you can take a domestic flight from KLIA-2 in Sepang to Penang International Airport in Bayan Lepas. This is normally a 1-hour-long flight, but KLIA-2 is also about an hour's drive from the KL city centre, in clear traffic. When you combine this with the flight check-in time and buffer time of 1 to 2 hours, your total travel time required comes to about 4 hours, which is why some people prefer to drive themselves or take a bus. However, a flight is the least stressful way of getting to Penang. What most visitors and tourists may not be aware of is that you can also fly to Penang from the Sultan Abdul Aziz Shah Airport, also known as the Subang Sky Park, which is located in Subang Jaya, via the Firefly domestic airline. This airport is less congested and much easier to get to if you are staying in Petaling Jaya. It is also closer to the KL city than KLIA. Being a purely domestic airport, the check-in process is much faster due to a smaller number of travelers and no need for immigration clearance. The Penang International Airport is located in Bayan Lepas, which is in the south end of the island. From here is a 30-minute taxi ride to Georgetown. For hailing taxis or private cars in Penang, you can use the Grab app, which has taken over from Uber in Southeast Asia. However, if you're flying in from overseas, the following cities have direct flight to Penang International Airport without the need to transit in Kuala Lumpur. The next most convenient way is to take an express bus. There are many bus services, but the most convenient in my opinion is Aeroline. The bus ride normally takes 4 hours if there's no traffic jam, and Aeroline runs twice daily service from 3 major locations in the Klang Valley. The bus will travel from KL across the Penang Bridge and drop you off at Queens Bay Mall, which is a short 15-minute taxi to the heart of Georgetown. The airline buses are very comfortable and designed like an airplane, with entertainment screens and packaged meals included in the fare.
Emergency doors are located at the right side.
The third most convenient way is to drive yourself if you have a car. The drive will take about 4 hours on the North-South Expressway, but you need to have a touch-and-go prepaid card to pay for the highway toll. You can buy this at a 7-Eleven convenience store or most petrol stations, and top up value there too. The advantage of driving is that you have more freedom to visit all the attractions in Penang. The disadvantage of driving is that Georgetown is very congested due to the narrow colonial-era streets, and street parking can be hard to find during peak hours. You also need the Penang Smart Parking app to pay for street parking. You can also use it to search for vacant car park lots. default method of getting to Penang is via train. The national train service, Kereta Api Tanah Melayu, runs about 5 to 6 daily rides on its ETS trains from KL Central Station to Butterworth Station. You can book tickets on the KTM website. The train will take about 3 hours or 4 hours depending on whether you're taking the express service or the business class service. The disadvantage of the train service is that it will drop you off at Butterworth Station on the mainland, and you have to take a 30-minute ferry from Butterworth to Georgetown. The ferry terminal, named Pangkalan Sultan Abdul Halim, is right next to the Butterworth train station, so it's fairly convenient for you to get there to make it to Georgetown. This is also the site of one of the most famous tragedies in Malaysia. The collapse of the ferry terminal in Butterworth on 31st July 1988 stands as one of Malaysia's most devastating infrastructural tragedies. At approximately 4:40 p.m, the upper-level passenger platform of the terminal gave way under the weight of an estimated 10,000 people, leading to the deaths of 32 individuals and injuring of 1,600 others. The disaster coincided with two major religious festivals, the once in 60 years Kuan Yin celebration in Georgetown and the annual St. Anne's Feast in Bukit Mertajam. These events drew massive crowds, many of whom converged on the ferry terminal to cross to Penang Island. The terminal, constructed in 1956, was not designed to accommodate such a large number of passengers, and its structure failed under the excessive load, causing the platform to collapse onto the vehicle deck below. The incident prompted a re-evaluation of the ferry terminal infrastructure and crowd management practices in Malaysia. Lastly, you can also visit Penang via cruise ship, as several international cruise lines, such as Royal Caribbean, Celebrity Cruises, Princess Cruises, and Cunard, do dock at Swettenham Pier Cruise Terminal in Georgetown. Also, YouTube says less than 5% of you are subscribed, so help a mate out and smash that like and subscribe button. Also, if you are new to the city, Viator offers great tours and experiences for all major cities, and if you use our link below, it helps us out and doesn't cost you extra. After our trip to Cameron Highlands in our previous video, we drove from Ipoh across the Penang Bridge and into Georgetown. On this trip, there was a planned multi-day water cut to the island, which I was not aware of. This and other events meant that I couldn't visit most of my favorite tourist sites, so this guide will not be as comprehensive as my other guides. My last visit to Penang was in 2007, so I was really looking forward to this trip. The Penang Bridge officially opened in September 1985, after 4 years of backbreaking engineering and political ambition. At 13.5 kilometers long, it was at the time the third longest bridge in the world and the longest in Southeast Asia. Suddenly, the sleepy port town had a headline-grabbing megastructure stretching across the sea. Back then, it was common, though illegal, to stop our cars on the roadside at the middle span to get out and take photos. These days, they are more strict about enforcement. One of the most recognizable landmarks is KOMTAR Tower. Short for Complex Tunku Abdul Razak, KOMTAR was conceived in the 1970s as part of Penang's grand plan to modernize. The British were long gone, and the new Malaysia was itching to show off. So what better way than to build a megastructure in the heart of Georgetown? When construction finally wrapped in 1986, KOMTAR stood proud at 68 stories. It was the tallest building in Malaysia at that time and a symbol of Penang's modern aspirations. The upper levels now host The Top, a family-friendly entertainment zone with the Rainbow Skywalk and observatory deck, a glass walkway 68 floors up, offering 360-degree views of Penang and the distinct pleasure of looking down and questioning your life choices. It's part mall, part theme park. We had booked an Airbnb apartment, which was a converted shop lot located 15 minutes walk from KOMTAR. This was a very nice apartment with its own personal car park, which was very convenient. The apartment has been renovated with a very modern style and we really liked it. One key advantage is that it has a washing machine, which was very useful as Penang was going through a massive heat wave at that period. My brother Edwin had flown up to meet us, so it was a great family get-together. After dropping off our luggage, we walked out to the New Lane Hawker Street, which opens from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. daily. They are closed on Wednesdays. This used to be a great location to grab some local street food. However, it is now much smaller and mostly a tourist trap. The food stalls were fairly limited and the taste was pretty average. Seating is open air, and there are numbers on your table which you should use to inform the food hawkers that you order from so they know which table to deliver to. We had coconut water as well as umbra juice. I had the Penang style 𝗟𝗡𝗡𝗡, which consists of steamed rice noodle rolls which are typically served with a prawn paste sauce. It was okay but not spectacular.
Okay.
Oh, no, so I take the chip out my hands.
That's okay. Hi everyone.
The next morning was a different story as we had great street food for breakfast. Our apartment is directly opposite 𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗨𝗥 Home Cafe, which is also adjacent to the famous Sister Yao 𝗟𝗡𝗡𝗡. Hence, we could see them setting up in the morning. Established in 1963, Sister Yao's 𝗟𝗡𝗡𝗡 has been a cornerstone of Penang street food culture. Now helmed by the founder's daughters, the stall continues to serve its signature dish with unwavering dedication. The 𝗟𝗡𝗡𝗡 here is a harmonious blend of wok hei, soy sauce, bean sprouts, and preserved radish, with the option to add egg for an extra layer of richness. This commitment to quality and tradition has earned the stall a Bib Gourmand recognition in the 2025 Michelin Guide Malaysia. Just steps away, 𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗨𝗥 Home Cafe offers a diverse array of local delights. It is not a polished cafe with mood lightings and latte art. No one's coming here for Instagrammable aesthetics. This is old school Penang Kopitiam grit. You order fast, eat faster, and clear the table for the next customer before the owner gives you the look. The main draw here is the 𝗟𝗡𝗡𝗡𝗡 stall inside the cafe, run by a master who treats his wok like an extension of his soul. It's greasy, it's fast, and is served with a side of attitude. Right outside the kopitiam, under a canopy and beside a rusty cart, sits one of Penang's underrated 𝗟𝗡𝗡𝗡 stalls. You can order at the stall and they will bring it to your table inside the cafe. Penang style 𝗟𝗡𝗡𝗡 stands out, a dish of steamed rice rolls generously coated with 𝗟𝗡𝗡 for that funky, salty, sweet kick, and then sprinkled with sesame seeds. This combination creates a symphony of flavors that is both comforting and indulgent. Additionally, they are also known for their French toast, slices of soft white bread dipped in egg, pan-fried until golden, slathered with margarine and lightly dusted with sugar. It's the kind of breakfast your grandma might make if she knew how to wheel a wok and didn't care about your cholesterol levels. In the shadow of greatness, sometimes the ice melts before the memory does. Chendul is a simple pleasure, a bowl of shaved ice, creamy coconut milk, slippery green jelly noodles, a healthy dollop of gula melaka, and if you are lucky, red beans that don't taste like they've been reheated since the British left. But in Malaysia, simple food often carries the weight of generations. So here we are on Penang Road, in the sweltering heat, standing in line for what is, on paper, the most famous bowl of chendol in the country, Penang Road famous Teochew chendol. This started life in 1936, slinging icy desserts from a humble pushcarts. It was the kind of place where your grandfather stood, sleeves rolled up, sweat trickling down his temple, waiting for that bowl of frozen salvation. And it's earned its reputation the hard way, through consistency, tradition, and damn good chendol. Over the years, the name grew. It franchised, it became a brand, but as the empire expanded, the magic seemed to thin out, like coconut milk left in the sun too long. Today, what you get isn't bad. It's just safe, predictable, a tourist checklist item rather than a hidden gem. The green jelly is still springy, the coconut milk is still cold, but there's something missing. Soul, maybe? The gula melaka lacks that deep, smoky richness that sticks to your tongue. The beans? Sometimes mealy, sometimes bland, and the ice melts faster than your expectations. Meanwhile, the line snakes down the alley, driven more by Instagram geotags than by authentic cravings. Locals? they've mostly moved on. The old-timers still come for sure, but mostly for nostalgia. Penang Road Teochew Chendul is a story, a legacy, but not all stories age well. Some are better remembered than relived. This one, it used to sing. Now it whispers. A short distance away, you'll find Penang Road famous Laksa near the Chendul stall. Wedged between souvenir stalls, tour bus traffic, and the never-ending stream of humanity. Thick rice noodles swim in murky, tangy, slightly sweet broth made from mackerel stock, torched ginger, lemongrass, and a signature dollop of pungent 𝗟𝗡𝗡𝗧𝗧𝗏. The broth is wild, unruly, like a jazz solo that starts off wrong and then somehow lands perfectly. Tucked quietly around the corner is Hai Onn restaurant, looking like it hasn't aged a day since the 1950s. No Instagram walls or QR codes, just antique marble tables that have seen 1,000 morning kopi sessions. Hainanese cuisine in Malaysia is a fascinating relic of the colonial past. The Hainanese ended up as cooks in British households and hotels, and out of that a cuisine that's part East, part West, and completely unique. Roti Babi literally means pork bread. It's a gloriously unphotogenic mass of minced pork, onions, and Chinese sausage, stuffed into thick white bread, dipped in egg, and pan-fried until golden and slightly greasy. It's like a porky French toast if your French grandma was Hainanese and didn't care about calories, but knew what comfort food tasted like. You barely find it anymore. It's a dying dish relegated to memory and whispers. Yet here at Hai Onn, you can still find it made the same old way. Penang is a food town and everyone knows that. But if you want to get past the curated food courts and Instagrammable laksa, you need to get up early, sweat a little, and throw yourself into the churning human soup that is Chowrasta Market. This place doesn't whisper history. It yells at you through a clatter of cleavers, the slap of fish on ice, and the occasional honk of a scooter navigating impossibly narrow aisles like it's part of the floor plan. Located right in the middle of Penang Road, Chowrasta is one of Georgetown's oldest wet markets. Around the market, you'll find many street foods, vegetables, and fruit vendors. And this is where you can also find the king of fruits, the Malaysian durian at King's House Durian. We were just in time for the start of the durian season here, and I got to enjoy some blackthorn durian, which was creamy and custardy and faintly bitter. If you are looking for snacks to enjoy or bring back as gifts, then Chowrasta Market has you covered. No neon signs, no PR teams, just Uncle Lim, a weathered man in a faded apron methodically rolling and crushing peanuts. Uncle Lim's popiah is an old school snack version sometimes known as peanut candy roll or Chinese popiah kacang. It's a paper thin crepe wrapped around a generous heap of crushed peanut brittle, sugar, and fragrant toasted sesame seeds, sometimes with a slick or sticky malt syrup for good measure. Forget your low-carb lifestyle. This is peanut candy at its finest. Unfortunately, due to the island-wide water cut, many food stalls were not open when we visited, so we took a stroll over to Kimberley Street. Tucked modestly between the blaring giants of Penang street food royalty, standing calm and humble like a monk at a metal concert, is 𝗟𝗡𝗏 Singh, the bee-hoon stall you never knew you needed. Here's the twist, it's vegetarian, and it's fantastic. Saying 𝗟𝗡𝗏 doesn't shout. There's no flaming woks for TikTok. Just a modest pushcart, a few tubs of prepared ingredient, and a mountain of soft, springy bee-hoon. Rice vermicelli, stir-fried with a practiced rhythm, and not a drop of meat inside. Yet somehow it sings. Just honest, clean flavor built on skill and patience. A plate costs just a few ringgit. Practically a donation when you think about the labor, the care, and the tradition behind it. Also along Kimberley Street, you'll find 𝗟𝗡𝗡𝗧𝗏 𝗟𝗡𝗡𝗏 stall, another famous local institution for Penang 𝗟𝗡𝗡𝗏. Uncle 𝗟𝗡𝗡 is a man of few words and precise motions. He's been doing this for decades, maybe longer than you've been alive. There's a rhythm to how he works. Chop, roll, pour, sprinkle, slide. It's a poetry made of carbohydrates. So come hungry, come curious, and enjoy the food. I didn't get to explore much of Penang this round due to family commitments. However, we did catch up for dinner with my uncle and cousin at Foong Hong restaurant. Chinese restaurants are typically communal meals with several dishes ordered and shared by everyone. We had the clay pot tofu, deep fried into golden pillows, then braised in a bubbling umami-rich sauce with mushroom and minced pork. We also had steamed chicken which was poached perfectly. Then there's the curry fish head bubbling in a rich coconut-based curry that clings to your lips. But the star here is their signature fried chicken and prawn roll. Sweet, savoury and crunchy in all the right ways. My brother had to return back to KL, so I drove him to the Bayan Lepas Airport. But before that, we stopped for lunch at First Genting Cafe. This place is famous for its unique take on Penang 𝗟𝗡𝗡𝗡. You're probably noticing a pattern here, as I've been missing the Penang 𝗟𝗡𝗡𝗡 for a long time, since it's hard to find places that serve it in Australia. In a state where everyone has an opinion on food and none of them are wrong, 𝗟𝗡𝗡𝗡 can be a surprisingly polarizing dish. Sweet, savoury, funky with fermented shrimp paste, or mellow with a peanut swirl. At First Genting Cafe in Penang, they don't just pick a side, they go completely off script. Most Penangites expect their 𝗟𝗡𝗡𝗡 drenched in a deep, pungent black swirl of hair-coal. Thick, sticky and funky enough to scare off a first-timer. But First Genting Cafe here takes a softer approach. Here, their version skips the shrimp paste entirely. Instead, they blend a trio of sauces: sweet sauce, chili, and a creamy, nutty sesame peanut sauce that leans more towards balance than bombast. The result? A smooth, silky noodle dish that still hits all the right notes: sweet, spicy, earthy, and aromatic. 𝗟𝗡𝗡𝗡 at First Genting Cafe is a Penang classic reimagined just enough to feel fresh without losing its roots. By mid-morning, the line starts to form. Office workers, retirees, students. It's a loyal local crowd, not here for Instagram, but for the comfort of a well-executed plate of 𝗟𝗡𝗡𝗡 done just a little differently. After lunch, I dropped my brother off at the airport. Since we were in the area, I took the opportunity to visit the Penang War Museum. Perched on the hilltops of Bukit Batu Maung, far from the char kway teow stalls and tourist-trapped trishaw rides of Georgetown, sits the Penang War Museum. Part fortress, part time capsule, part haunted house. This is not your average museum. It's heavy, it's gritty, and it tells a story most people would rather forget. Originally built in the 1930s by the British as a coastal defense fortress, the site was designed to repel naval attacks long before the Japanese invasion in World War II. But it didn't work. The Japanese came through Thailand, not the sea. The fortress was captured and transformed into a military prison and interrogation center. That's where the story takes a brutal turn. Torture, execution, and war crimes were committed here, buried under the fog of history and tropical rot. But in the early 2000s, someone had a wild idea to resurrect the place. Not to polish it up, but to keep it raw, gritty, and a little terrifying. This isn't a polished air-conditioned war memorial with velvet ropes and audio guides narrated by Morgan Freeman. No, this is a labyrinth of underground tunnels, rusted ammunition rooms, and eerie barracks, some still blackened by time and neglect. It's hot, it's humid, and it smells like the jungle is trying to take it back. The museum is sprawling, a maze of underground bunkers, decommissioned gun emplacements, and ammo tunnels that snake through the jungle hillside. There are old barracks, command centers, sleeping quarters, and eerie cells where prisoners once waited out their final hours. Marking its location as a prime location of a fort, you can view the new Penang Second Link Bridge from the gun emplacements. Some visitors come for the history, others come for the thrill. This place has been branded one of the most haunted sites in Malaysia, and it wears its title like a medal. This square is where the Japanese executed captured prisoners during World War II. Locals speak in hushed tones about ghost sightings, strange noises, and an oppressive energy that creeps into your bones. The staff? They've got stories, plenty of them, and no one laughs when they tell them. This place isn't comfortable. It's not meant to be. The Penang War Museum is a confrontation with memory of colonial ambition, wartime brutality, and the haunted silence that follows both. It's one of the places you visit not to be entertained, but to feel something. And in a world filled with curated selfies and filter-friendly heritage spots, this brutal slice of the past stands alone. Ugly, honest, and unforgettable. In the evening, we went for dinner at New World Park Food City, which offers a slightly cleaner, more organized spin on Penang's beloved hawker scenes, without losing the soul. Think of it as a hawker center for those who want the chaos, but with functioning toilets. Step inside and it's like a hawker hall of fame, local legends and comfort food icons under one semi-covered roof. Some stalls have been dishing out the same recipe for decades, but others are newer but no less legit. New World Park Food City hits a sweet spot. Cleaner tables, decent parking, and a roof to keep the monsoon off your 𝗟𝗡𝗡𝗏. But the flavors are still old school Penang. It's tourist friendly without being tourist trappy. Locals still eat here, and that's your first green light. There's a certain charm in sitting down with a cold drink, the distant hiss of woks firing, and watching generations of Penangites do what they do best: argue about food. In Georgetown, where heritage is lovingly restored, and every crumbling facade seems destined to become a boutique hotel or an artisanal cafe, one building stands stubbornly still, silent, shadowed, and rotting in plain sight. Welcome to the abandoned Chung Branch School, a place where history didn't just fade, it decayed. This weathered colonial building, located on prime land in Georgetown, not far from the glitzy Eastern and Oriental Hotel, began life in the 1880s as a British seaside villa. Whitewashed, dignified, and facing the coast, it was once the kind of address that came with butlers and high tea. Then came the war. During the Japanese occupation in World War II, the villa was seized and converted into a military base, and as whispered by generations of Penangites, an interrogation center. It's believed that unspeakable acts were committed in the basement: torture, executions, and ghosts that never left. After the war, it was repurposed as the Chung Branch School, serving students for decades until it eventually shut its doors in the early 1990s. And then it was left to the weather and the spirits. Locals will tell you it's one of the most haunted places in Georgetown. People report hearing children's laughter echoing in the dead of night, the dragging of chairs across empty classrooms, and the eerie feeling of being watched by eyes long gone. Some even claim to have seen a schoolboy standing by a broken window, only to disappear when approached. While Georgetown reinvents and gentrifies itself, this place remains a raw, unfiltered scar. No play cards, no curated exhibits, just history, horror, and heavy silence. It's a magnet for photographers, ghost hunters, and the occasional daredevil who jumps the fence for a thrill. But step carefully, both literally and spiritually. Enter at your own risk if you dare. Just don't be surprised if you leave with more than you came in with. We were supposed to drive back to KL the next day, but I took the morning to quickly visit Armenian Street. Tucked inside the UNESCO World Heritage core zone of Georgetown, this area was originally named after the short-lived Armenian community that settled here in the 1800s. It is a microcosm of Penang itself, multicultural, layered, and constantly evolving. Once a quiet residential street lined with Chinese clan houses and trading posts, it has morphed into a living gallery, a cultural artery, and yes, an Instagram battlefield on weekends. This is the now famous mural by 𝗟𝗜𝗡𝗏𝗡𝗧𝗦, a Lithuanian street artist whose 2012 Georgetown Festival commission turned Penang's walls into storytelling canvases. Further down the street, you come across another mural. These murals aren't just decorations, they are interaction points, part of Penang's reinvention of heritage, blending old school architecture with new world narrative. Also in the area, you find one of the most elaborately decorated clan houses in Southeast Asia, Khu Kong Si, where stone carvings and red lanterns meet tales of migration and perseverance. Walk far enough down Well Quay, and concrete gives way to creaking wood, and the smell of the sea starts to mix with incense. Welcome to the Clan Jetties, a place where history stands on stilts and the past hasn't quite let go. These waterfront villages date back to the late 19th century, when Chinese immigrants, brought by the British to work at the docks, settled along the coast. They built wooden homes on stilts over the water and grouped themselves according to their clans: Chew, Lim, Tan, Yo, Lee, and others. They were dock workers, boatmen, carpenters, tied to the sea by trades, ties, and necessity. These jetties weren't just homes. They were self-contained worlds, surviving outside the formal colonial grid, and some didn't even pay property tax, because technically, they weren't on land. Chew Jetty is the largest and most developed, and yes, that means it's also the most touristy. But don't let the souvenir shops fool you. Families still live here. The public is actually barred from visiting before 9 AM, so as not to disturb the residents. I also took the chance to visit the Clan Jetty of my namesake, the Tan Jetty. This is quieter, no fanfare. Just weathered planks, fishing nets, and the kind of silence that tells you this place still belongs to the people who live here. The Tan clan's ancestors were fishermen and oyster harvesters from the Fujian province in China, and their clansmen here continue to pay homage to their roots. At the very end sits a small wooden pavilion with a shrine that juts out over the water. Come during golden hour and it becomes a photographer's dream. Sunlight filtering through the slats, sea breeze in your hair, and the distant hum of life ashore. The Clan Jetties aren't theme parks or curated heritage exhibits. They are living communities, slowly adapting to modernity while trying to preserve a vanishing way of life. While there, I also caught a glimpse of one of the old decommissioned Penang ferries at the ferry terminal. These double-decker ferries were legendary, carrying both vehicles and pedestrians between Penang Island and the mainland for nearly a century. I used to travel on these as a child and have fond memories of travelling on them during the school holidays. Cars would be transported on the bottom deck, while foot passengers would travel on the upper deck. They were a cultural symbol of Penang. However, with declining car traffic due to the two Penang Road bridges, these aging ferries were decommissioned in 2020 and replaced with the more modern ferries that catered only to foot passengers. With that, I drove back to the apartment to collect my luggage, and we then departed across the Penang Bridge, bound for KL. I didn't manage to cover all my other favourite Penang highlights this trip, but I will definitely be back. Thank you for watching, and if you found this video useful, please do hit that like and subscribe button.